My name is Elena Cortez. 11 months and 14 days ago, a woman half my age sat in that very chair and told me, with a smile, that she was going to take everything my husband and I spent 50 years building. She said I was too old, too sentimental, and too female to stop her. She was wrong on all 3 counts. What happened next wasn't just about protecting $87 million. It was about dismantling a predator, piece by calculated piece, using the one thing she thought was my weakness, my age. If you believe that experience trumps arrogance, and that some battles are worth fighting with cold precision, not hot anger, then stay with me. Tell me where you're watching from in the comments. And subscribe, because the strategy I employed is something anyone can learn from. Let me take you back to the beginning. My husband Antonio built Cortez Shipping from a single cargo boat into a fleet spanning 3 oceans. We were partners in every sense. When he passed 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, he left me as the majority shareholder and CEO. Our son Daniel was never interested in the business. He's a marine biologist, spends his time with dolphins, not balance sheets. I respected that. I never pressured him. I had a brilliant team, a stable company, and enough grief to last a lifetime. My focus was on honoring Antonio's legacy and ensuring our employees' futures. Then, Daniel met Sloane. It was at a charity auction for the Ocean Conservancy. She was 31, stunning, a sustainability consultant. According to Daniel, she was brilliant, passionate, and understood him like no one else. She appeared, in his words, like a gift from the sea. I met her 2 weeks later. She arrived at my Palm Beach home wearing a dress that cost more than my first car and a watch I recognized as a Patek Philippe annual calendar. Retail, about $80,000. On a consultant's salary. The first thing she said after hello was, "This property is magnificent. The land alone must be worth $20 million. Do you have an estate plan in place, Elena? So many families in your position don't." Not a question about Antonio, about Daniel's work, about me. Her opening move was a probe about assets. My internal alarms, honed over 50 years of negotiating with pirates, literal and figurative, went to DEFCON 1. I smiled. I served tea. I played the gracious, slightly doddering widow. I let her see what she wanted to see. An old woman, emotionally fragile, holding on to her husband's things. I mentioned how I missed Antonio's guidance on all these complicated financial matters. I saw the flicker in her eyes, the calculation. She saw vulnerability. It was the first bait I laid. Their relationship was a whirlwind, a tornado. Daniel, my thoughtful, deliberate son, was suddenly talking about eloping to Bora Bora after 3 months. He traded his decade-old Prius for a Porsche Cayenne. Sloane says image is important for networking, he told me, looking vaguely uncomfortable in his new designer sweater. I didn't argue. I observed. I hired a discreet, expensive private investigation firm. Not to follow Daniel, but to understand Sloane. Within 10 days, I had a dossier. Her real name was Sloane Whitaker, not Sloane Evans, as she told Daniel. 2 previous brief marriages, both to older, wealthy men. One ended in an annulment after 8 months, the other in a quiet, sealed settlement. Her consulting firm was a shill with no clients. Her social media was a curated museum of luxury borrowed from photo shoots and rental services. She was a professional, and she was good. My son was in love with a phantom. Telling him would only push him away. He would see it as an attack, not a rescue. So I planned a rescue he wouldn't feel. I called my attorney, Marcus Thorne. Marcus has been with us since Antonio bought his second boat. He's ruthless in the kindest way possible. I laid out the dossier. Marcus, I said. She's going to marry him. She's going to go after the company through him. How do we build an inescapable box? We designed a 2-pronged strategy. Prong 1, the ironclad prenup. But not just any prenup. We made it a masterpiece of reverse psychology. We made it seem fair, even generous on the surface, to get her to sign it without independent counsel, which she would be inclined to do. Believing me to be a pushover, it offered a modest lump sum after 5 years of marriage, increasing slightly after 10. It protected Daniel's current assets. But buried in Section 4, Clause C, was what we called the integrity trigger. It stated that if the marriage was dissolved due to provable fraud, misrepresentation, or malicious intent regarding the union, the entitled party would not only forfeit all claims, but would be liable for all legal fees incurred by the other party in the dissolution and any related civil actions. We also included a clause granting me, as the principal family shareholder, standing to sue for tortious interference if anyone attempted to manipulate Daniel to gain control of family-held assets. It was a legal landmine, and we wrapped it in pretty paper. Prong 2 was more subtle. I began a controlled leak of information. I had my CFO, a man I trust with my life, mention casually to Daniel that due to new environmental regulations and market pressures, Cortez Shipping was facing significant headwinds and that the board was discussing consolidation. I let Daniel see me looking worried over financial reports. I wanted Sloan to hear a narrative. The company was struggling, the golden goose might be sick. This would force her hand to move faster, to be greedier, to make mistakes. She took the bait. Daniel proposed after 4 months. He brought her to tell me. She was radiant, clutching a 5-carat diamond that made me sigh internally. Another debt my son had incurred. "We want a small, intimate wedding, Elena," she said, squeezing Daniel's arm. "Just family. Maybe at your estate." "It's so beautiful." I agreed immediately. "Of course." "But darling," I said, touching Daniel's cheek with all the maternal concern I could muster, "your father and I always believed in being practical about love. A small prenup, just to protect what he might build in the future. It's what he would have wanted." Daniel, wanting to honor his father, agreed icily. Sloane's smile was tight, but she nodded. "Of course. I'd never want anyone to think I was after anything but Daniel." The hypocrisy was breathtaking. She signed the prenup without a lawyer present. Her second fatal mistake, born of her belief in my incompetence. She even joked about it. So much paperwork for such a little wedding. My pie had a camera in Marcus's office. We have her on tape, signing with a flourish, not even reading past the first page. We had our hook set. The wedding was at my home. 50 people. She wore a custom Vera Wang. It was elegant, tasteful, and cost $85,000. I paid for it without a blink. An investment in the narrative. The moment they were pronounced husband and wife, her demeanor toward me changed. The solicitor's future daughter-in-law vanished. It was a subtle shift, but I felt it. The mask was coming off. The real play began 3 weeks after the honeymoon in Mauritius. Daniel came to me, agitated. "Mom, Sloan has been looking at some of Dad's old files. She thinks the company might be undervalued. That the board might be taking advantage of you." There it was. The opening move. I widened my eyes, playing the part. "Taking advantage? How?" she says, "with your age, and with you being so trusting. It's possible they're hiding assets or preparing a takeover. She wants to help. She knows people." I let a tear well up. "Oh, Daniel, I feel so overwhelmed sometimes." I was nominated for a drama award in college. It came in handy. Maybe ... Maybe she could meet with Robert, my CFO, just to get a sense, I suggested, voice trembling. Daniel hugged me. "Don't worry, Mum, we'll help you." The meeting was set. Sloan, playing the fierce protector, arrived with a financial analyst friend. Robert, following my script to the letter, presented selectively pessimistic reports, hinted at board unrest, and mentioned my increasing reluctance to make hard decisions. He laid it on thick. I watched from a hidden camera feed in my study. I saw the hunger in her eyes. She wasn't seeing problems. She was seeing opportunity. She left that meeting believing the company was a weakened giant, ready for the taking, and that I was the feeble queen holding the keys. Her next move was swift. She began pressuring Daniel to get more involved for my sake. She suggested he ask for a seat on the board. "To protect your mother's interests," Daniel, wanting to help, came to me. I reluctantly agreed. "Only if you think it's best, darling. I appointed him to a newly created advisory board seat with no voting power. It was a placebo, but it gave Sloane a sense of progression. Then, she overreached. She contacted a rival shipping conglomerate, Titan Global, behind my back. My pie intercepted the communication. She was offering to act as an internal consultant to facilitate a takeover of Cortez Shipping, citing my failing capacity and a pliable heir in Daniel. She promised she could deliver the board through Daniel's influence. For this, she wanted a $5 million success fee and a senior VP position. She was selling my company out from under me, using my son as the pawn. This was the evidence. This was the fraud, the malicious intent. This triggered the landmine in the I didn't confront her. I didn't scream. I called a board meeting. I invited Daniel. And I invited Sloane, as the spouse of a board member. They sat, confused. I stood at the head of the table, Antonio's old chair. I turned on the large screen. I played the audio recordings from the pie of Sloane's calls to Titan Global. I displayed the emails. I showed the dossier of her past, her real name, her previous marriages. The room was silent, frozen. Daniel's face, it shattered. It was the worst moment of my life, watching his world break. He looked at Sloane. Is this true? She turned white, then red. She didn't deny it. She spat at me. You conniving old witch. You set me up. I looked at her, all pretense of fragility gone. My voice was ice. No, Sloane, you set yourself up. You saw a weak old woman and a naive son. You saw a fortune you thought you could steal. You underestimated both. I turned to Marcus, who was present. Marcus, you have the paperwork. He served her there and then. The annulment filing, citing fraud. The civil lawsuit for tortious interference, citing the prenup clause. The demand for payment of all legal fees to date. And a letter from Titan Global, withdrawing all interest and confirming they had been cooperating with my investigation once alerted, making her look like a fool to them as well. She was trapped. The annulment was granted in 45 days. The marriage was erased. Because of the prenup's integrity trigger, she was ordered to pay our legal fees. $325,000. The civil suit was settled with her signing an NDA and a confession of judgment for another $500,000, to be paid from any future earnings. She was left not just defeated, but bankrupt and bound by silence. The aftermath, with Daniel, was difficult. He was devastated, humiliated, angry at me for the deception, even as he understood the necessity. We didn't speak for 2 months. He went to therapy. I gave him space. He finally came to me, a shell of himself. You knew, and you let me walk into it. I tried to build a net under the tightrope. Daniel, I said. I couldn't pull you off without you falling. I had to let you feel the wobbles so you'd understand the danger. It took a year, but we rebuilt. He sees the world differently now. Not cynically, but clearly. So, why tell you this? Not for sympathy. As a case study, predators look for specific patterns, grief, generational wealth, a kind heart they can manipulate. My revenge wasn't emotional. It was structural. I didn't yell. I didn't fight dirty. I used better strategy, better law, and better patience. I let her believe she was winning until the moment the cage door slammed shut. Sure, your greatest weapon isn't always what you show, but what you choose to let them see. Protect your family, not just with love, but with wisdom that anticipates the storm. Document everything. Have the hard conversations. And understand that sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is be the villain in someone else's story, to remain the hero in your own. If this resonated with you, if you've ever faced someone who underestimated you, leave a comment below. Tell me your story. And if you want more real strategies for protecting what matters, subscribe. This isn't just about money, it's about legacy. It's about ensuring that the love and labor of a lifetime doesn't become the prize for someone's short-term greed. Lena holds the gaze for a final beat, then gives a small, knowing nod. Screen fades to black,